All right. Welcome back to another episode of Your Guess, Your Mess. I'm Tracy. And if you've been rocking with me this season, you already know we've been talking a lot about becoming a different version of ourselves, learning how to move differently, learning how to trust our decisions. But today, we're switching it up a little bit because sometimes becoming doesn't just happen when you're sitting at home thinking about life. Sometimes it happens when you're just out, watching people, observing how folks move. And man, let me tell you about what happened the other night while I was just sitting there minding my business and thinking like, wow, people really show you who they are without even realizing it. So let me tell you what happened. So I'm out, right? Nothing crazy, just sitting at the bar, chilling, minding my business. And this guy comes up to me and starts talking. Now, mind you, we were just having a regular conversation, nothing wild, just laughing, talking, enjoying the moment. But the funny part is, we actually had already made plans to meet up earlier. So when he walked in and came over to me, it wasn't random to me. We had already said that we'll catch up. But the bartender didn't know that. And you know how sometimes when someone is watching a situation from the outside, they think they know what's going on, but they really don't? That was one of those moments. Because I kept noticing her looking over. Not in a casual way either, like really looking. And after a while, it kind of clicked. She had eyes for him. She was checking for him. But he wasn't giving her any attention. Not at all. And I guess from her point of view, it probably looked like he walked in and immediately started talking to me. So the energy shifted a little bit. And I'm sitting there thinking, girl, why are you looking at me? And the crazy part is, me and him were just literally sitting there having a good time, talking, laughing, nothing serious. But you can feel that tension. And that moment had me thinking about something. Sometimes people react to situations based on what they think is happening, not what is actually happening. And when that happens, the easiest thing to do is place that energy on whoever is right in front of you. In that moment, that happened to be me. And I just sat there like, yeah, I'm going to stay out of that. Because a version of me now, I don't involve myself in things that have nothing to do with me. Years ago, I probably would have been trying to explain or trying to have a whole conversation, fighting, arguing, or try to smooth things over for her to be like, calm down. Now, I just observed and I kept it moving. But that wasn't even the moment that stuck with me the most that night. The real conversation came a little bit later. And this one hit me a little deeper. So later, I end up sitting and talking with this woman. Just a normal conversation at first. You know how it goes when you're out and people just start chatting? We start talking about what people do for work, what we do for a living, just that kind of conversation. And when she asked me what I do, I told her something simple. I said, well, right now I'm not actually working. And when I said that, she kind of paused for a second. And she looked at me and said, wow, I wish I could do that. But the way she said it, it wasn't just a casual moment. You could tell she meant it. And then she started explaining how she's been thinking about leaving her job, how she's been feeling stuck, how she want to do something different, how she want to build on her business that she has going on. But right after saying all that, she said the things that a lot of people say. I'm just scared of the unknown. And that right there is something so many people feel. Because it's one thing to know you're not happy where you are, but it's another thing to actually step into something new when you don't even know exactly what's going on. What does it look like? What is it going to look like? So I told her something simple. I said, sometimes you just have to take the leap. Not because you have everything figured out, but because something inside you know you can't stay where you are anymore. And that's the part people don't talk about enough. People think becoming is this big moment where they realize everything makes sense. But sometimes you make a decision first, and then life starts revealing the next step along the way. That's the real leap. And talking to her reminded me of something. Everybody's timing is different. Some people know they're ready to change something in their life, but fear keeps them where they are. Fear of the unknown, fear of money, fear of disappointing people, fear of making the wrong decision. And I understand that. Believe me, I understand that. Because leaving something familiar, even when it's no longer serving you, that is not easy. But at some point, you have to ask yourself a question. Ask yourself the real question. Am I staying because I'm growing here? Or am I staying because it's comfortable? Because those are two different things. And that's really what becoming is about. Not just the big decisions, but the small moments where you realize, I am moving differently now. I see situation differently. You respond differently. You observe things you might not even notice before. And sometimes all it takes is one night out, one random conversation, one moment watching how people react, and it reminds you how far you've come. So yeah, that night had me sitting there thinking about a lot of things. People's energy, fear, growth, and the quiet way becoming show up in our lives. Not always in a big announcement, but in the way we move through everyday moments. And if you're in that space right now where you feel something shifting in your life, just know you're not alone. A lot of us are figuring it out as we go. And sometimes the best thing you can do is trust yourself enough to take that step. All right. Thank you for sitting with me for another episode of Your Guess, Your Mess. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the places. And if this episode made you think about something in your own life, drop a comment and let me know. Thank you so much, and I'll see y'all next week.